we're announcing changes to the electoral law. I think New Zealanders have got a very strong electoral system that we're proud of and have high levels of trust on, and we want to ensure that it stays that way. And so we're making some changes, particularly around enrolment times, because we're finding more and more people enrolling later and later, including on election day, which the previous government brought in. That's creating a lot of stress on the system. We used to be able to get an outcome of the election in 2 weeks. It went out to 3 weeks, and the advice I've had is that if we do nothing, it'll be longer than that, pushing into 4 weeks. And so we're going to close enrolments the day before early voting. Also making some other changes, such as allowing for automatic enrolment, so people have to actually do less of it, using government systems to do that, and a host of other changes. Happy to answer any questions.
There was some conversations at some point about banning marae as being a place where people could vote. Why did you decide not to do that?
Ultimately, the Electoral Commission has the ability to choose places where people are most likely to go and vote, but we have put systems in place so as to ensure that the systems are robust. We've made some changes around the treating legislation, the clauses, just to be very clear about that.
And you pointed to the timeframes after the election, as well as some administrative cost and burden as being reasons to restrict the registration or enrolment. Is that worth potentially removing the vote or suppressing the vote of, more than 100,000 people?
Well, I certainly don't accept that we'll be removing anybody's vote or suppressing any votes.
Their ability to enrol.
Yeah, but I mean, the big problem we've had is ultimately the Electoral Commission has been sending sort of two messages. One is get enrolled before the election. Actually, the law is that you need to be enrolled within a month of circumstances changing. But they've also been saying, but don't worry, you don't actually have to get enrolled because you can just do it when you turn up to vote. And more people have been listening to the second message, and the previous government allowed it to happen on election day. That's just making the whole system unsustainable.
Well, does the messaging about changing the law? I mean, there are
almost
100,000 people last year who took advantage of this. That's a big chunk of New Zealanders that now may not be able to have their vote.
No, I absolutely reject any idea that people will not be able to vote. They just need to be enrolled. And previously, you couldn't vote on election day. It was only the previous government that brought that in, and we're unwinding that. But we're going back to the start of special voting because we think that makes sense.
What advice have you had about how many people might have their votes disallowed as a result of this?
Well, it's impossible to say because...
we know that it's happened in the past, right? Before the law changes happened, tens of thousands of people had their vote disallowed because they weren't enrolled.
No. What we've got is a whole year for a campaign. This is the core role of the Electoral Commission, is to tell people that they need to be enrolled. It is the law to be enrolled, and we've got every expectation that with a different message to what we've got at the moment, that people will be able to get organised, get enrolled, and actually it encourages people to engage earlier in the political system, get involved, get enrolled, and then think about
how... the government, though, be making it easier for people to vote rather than putting up roadblocks?
Yes, but we've got to also balance the fact that we want to have an outcome of the election in a timely manner, and it does actually matter. If we have an uncertain outcome, people don't start coalition negotiations until they know the final outcome, and if that's drifting into 4 weeks, then that creates more uncertainty in the case. And I think
isn't that how long politicians spend negotiating? Why can't you put a time frame around that rather than, potentially not having as many New Zealanders voting?
Well, like I say, I've got every confidence in New Zealanders to be able to get themselves enrolled. And, I make the point, the Australians, you have to be enrolled 26 days before the election over there. And if we're really arguing that we're not as up onto it as the Australians, I just don't think it's yeah, well, this is about enrolment, and it's compulsory to enrol over there. It's compulsory to enrol here, and so that's.
Minister, it's well known that those special votes that kind of come in 2 weeks or so after the election tend to trend left. How do you defend an accusation that says that you're making these changes that would disadvantage your political opponents?
Well, if you followed that logic, the previous time Labor brought in same-day voting, it would be advantaging them, and I just don't agree with any of that. Ultimately, what we're about is we want people to enrol, we want people to vote, and we're just simply saying that you need to be enrolled before voting starts. And different countries around the world do it. Democracy hasn't come to an end. It's perfectly... I've got every confidence in New Zealanders to be able to do this.
Do you have a necessity breakdown of those late enrolments?
Yes, we can get those figures. Broadly speaking, it was about 100,000 people who were enrolled on election day at the last election. Now, of course, nobody could 2 elections ago because you weren't able to, and we'll be sending a different message this time.
Do you know how many of those 100,000 were Māori voters?
Not precisely, but there were a greater proportion of them.
Are you concerned or have you been given any advice about how this might disproportionately impact Māori voter turnout, which is much lower than non-Māori?
Yes, there is advice along those lines, and my answer to that is, if people are making the argument that Māori are less capable of getting enrolled and participating, I just don't agree with that as well. I think we've just got to get our messages right, and it's the role of all politicians, of course, to encourage their supporters to get out, get enrolled, and come and vote for them.
So now what is it?
Changes, there will be some people who move houses within that 12-day period, or move houses and don't update their details within that 12-day period, who will have their electorate vote disallowed. Why do you think that that's appropriate? They're enrolled to vote, they just might not have their details updated.
Yeah, well, the obligation on people as a citizen is to be enrolled, and many countries around the world have a clear cut-off date, so that the issue is that if you're a special vote enrolled at the last moment, the first thing that the Electoral Commission has to do is look at that enrolment, make sure it's right. That takes a few days, and then they can start the counting, and it adds to the pressure on the whole system, which is what
What's your message to those?
Why are you banning people? Why are you banning people who are deemed to be and have mental health issues or mental distress but have not been found or convicted of committing a crime?
I'm not banning. The only people we're banning are people who are in prison, who have been sentenced and are servicing, and that's something that we'll stand by, and we're happy to do that.
People detained in hospitals or in specialist forensic facilities
Yeah.
are having their voting rights.
Well, we were getting some extra advice on that, and that's something that we can work through on the select committee process. And I just remind everybody that we'll have a full select committee process on this, and we'll work through those.
What's your
details.
message to the 100,000 or so people that will be affected by this?
Well, they won't be affected because my simple message is you've got a year to get enrolled, and I've got every confidence that they'll be able to get themselves organised to get enrolled well before the election.
Why can't you about waiting a while to get the results anyway?
Yeah, well, look, ultimately, it's about we never know what the circumstances are going to be after an election. We don't know what pressure the country will be under, and an extra week, extra 2 weeks, if we do nothing, could be longer. Then that just creates extra uncertainty that we can easily avoid by people enrolling in a timely fashion.
Why do you think that people have waited to enrol on the day? ACTA suggested it's because they're lazy and disorganised.
No, I just think they've been encouraged to do so, and that's the point. We've had this mixed message from the Electoral Commission. Their basic message should be get enrolled, but they've also been saying, well, but don't worry, you don't need to. You can just rock up on election day and get enrolled and vote. And so people are just doing what's the simplest thing, and so that's what we've got to change that message. And I've got every confidence that people will be able to adapt and get themselves organised.
How do you enroll for voting?
Well, most people are fully enrolled, and it's automatic, and with these changes that are going to be made, you won't have to do anything. You'll just get a note saying, here's your stuff, you're enrolled, you're good to go. But if you move to a different electorate, or you've turned 18, again, if you turned 18, you get a letter and something in the postal. And we're making changes actually through this legislation so that they don't necessarily have to have a physical letter, which is costing the earth and taking a long time, but they'll be able to get an email or a text, and then you just do what you have to do, go online, get it sorted.